Hi, folks. My name is Bridget. I'm actually an AmeriCorps member at the Cincinnati Zoo. So I am serving with 9 other AmeriCorps members at the zoo's education department with LC programming. That's our Living Classroom Education Access Fund. And so we work with schools in Cincinnati where 60% or more of students qualify for free luncheon. So we like to bring either animals to the schools or have them come here. We've got a lot of virtual programming set up this year, obviously, but we're still able to work through it, which is great, due to a very good friend of mine. Her name is Quartz. Okay. Quartz is a Kenyan sand boa. See her right here? She's 15 years old, and they live up to 20 years when in human care. But these snakes live in low altitude sandy areas in Eastern Africa. So she spends most of her time, as the name would suggest, in the sand. She basks right under the surface, and when prey crawls by or trots by, she can spring out of the sand and strike the prey and constrict it in order to get her food. So she's actually got really small, hard scales that protect her skin from irritation from the sand. And you can kind of see she's very stout, a little limp. It's kind of like I'm holding a giant earthworm right now. Unlike a lot of other boas, she wouldn't be, wrapping around my arm or anything. That's because she's really made for burrowing in the sand. And you can even see her eyes and nose are placed so that when her head is poking out of the sand, it doesn't get any debris in the eye, which is great. And you can also see her tongue. When she sticks out her tongue like that, she's not tasting, she's actually smelling. She uses her tongue to smell. So when she sticks her tongue out, she can pick up scent particles and bring it back to the roof of her mouth. She's got something called a Jacobson's organ, which are these 2 tiny pit-like organs on the roof of her mouth that are lined with olfactory nerves. So it lets her get a really good sense of what's around by being able to smell these really fine ingredients in the air. Let's see, what else can I tell you about Quartz? She's nocturnal, so she's really active in hunting at night. And if she's, not actively hunting, again, she's usually just spending her time in the sand.
What does she normally eat?
She normally eats rodents. So she can, even in the wild, she can eat lizards and small birds. But also she is unfortunately prey for larger birds and small mammals and even some other reptiles as well, especially their young, which she also gives live birth. So that's ovoviviparous, which means the eggs hatch inside of her and she gives birth to live young, which is very interesting. And
something that I also really love, this is Jaren again. Hi guys. If you look at a lot of people when they look at a snake, they think that, okay, I see the head and the face, and then most of it's their tail, right? They're like, actually, no, the tail is only this portion of the snake. If you can see her cloaca here, this is the snake's tail. The rest of it is part of her body. Let's put her in the sand and let's see.
We'll see her in action, see if she wants to get any further. There you go, Quartz. Oh, yep, she's starting with her tail here.
I'll try to do this.
Yeah, get a good action shot.
She's also probably wondering, what the heck is this big iPad thing over me right now?
when it starts getting really hot, the summer months in Africa too, sometimes they'll take cover instead under different plants or in small animal burrows because the sand gets a little too hot for them, but generally that's where they are happiest. And again, so they've got these really small and really tough scales that really are locked together to prevent any sand from getting in, which is really great.
Hey, Gwen, do we have any questions?
So one question, and I might have missed this, but where in the world do these snakes live?
They live in East Africa, so Kenya and Egypt and Libya. They're kind of confined to that eastern part of Africa. They live in kind of deserty areas where they have a lot of sand available. And yeah, so you're not going to find this friend in your backyard, no worries. Which even if you did, she's not venomous.
Yeah,
so
it would be one of the best snakes to find.
yeah, she's pretty chill. Any other questions?
Is she a venomous snake? How does she kill her prey?
She is not. So she will strike and bite her prey, but that's more so to stun or attack them. She's going to end up constricting her body around her prey, at which point she'll then, after it's been killed, she'll swallow it whole.
So another question we had in the Q&A is, what does she drink?
Oh, that is a very good question. I have to say she's just drinking water when she can find it, when she needs it.
And mostly a lot of snakes they do drink actual water like other animals do, but then they will also get their moisture from the prey that they eat. So the water that is in their rodent friend that they decide to eat for lunch, they'll also absorb that moisture from those animals as well. Great question.
That is a good question. Just got some good tongue action. I believe
She finally did start moving just a little bit, and it looks like from the video she's kind of moving backwards.
You're right.
She is. She's kind of.
So you'll notice if you're starting at the tail, she's digging in tail first.
Oh, I see you.
And this is something that we love to do with students when we have them in programs with us, is we'll often get out one of our ambassador animals and we just practice those skills of observation. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we don't spend, even at the zoo, we see plenty of people that just see an animal for 5 seconds and then walk right past it. So we really try to challenge anyone that's in our programs, from kid to an adult, to just give yourself some time to just sit and watch, and it's amazing what you'll notice if you give yourself that space to make those observations.
Right. Like I might ask a student, how is she moving? Look at the way she's moving. What does it look like she's doing? Well, she's contracting these muscles. You can sometimes see them ripple up along the body. And of course, now she's gonna stop moving just to toy with me, but that's fine. So they constrict and pull themselves along this way, which is really incredible how snakes can move with so few legs.
Right. So a couple other questions we have. Do they always dig in? Do these snakes always dig in tail first?
It's a little bit of both. Sometimes it depends on what Quartz wants to do. I've seen several times where they'll go head first, because again, if you look at that snout, it's kind of perfectly poised to also be kind of like a little shovel. Mm-hmm. But then they'll also use their tail too. So it doesn't really matter. You'll see both.
And another question we had in the Q&A is, what preys on this snake?
So especially when they are younger and a little bit smaller, they can be preyed on by small mammals or other reptiles even, and definitely birds of prey. We'll see them and grab at them.
Mhm.
But the other dangers they would face in their habitat is mostly related to how human interaction with their habitat has a negative impact. So development of the land, and they're certainly in a tricky spot for that.
And that was the final question we had from the Q&A was, what about human-wildlife conflict and how is that affecting these snakes and where are they on an endangered list?
So our program notes, they haven't been evaluated. They haven't been assessed their status. So I don't believe that they are endangered, but snakes face a lot of the same kind of like habitat insecurity when it comes to, their homes in the wild. So if land is being developed, if the food chain is disrupted and suddenly they're not finding their rodents or their small birds, they're going to have to move other places, and they're so equipped for sand and warm temperatures that if they had to move out of the desert, then they would probably be in a lot of peril, for sure.
And one last question before we let you go. There's lots of very interesting questions about the snakes. Can they close their eyes?
They do not close their eyes. Okay, just wanted to make sure. They don't close their eyes, and I was actually told that the only way you can tell that the snake is sleeping is if it's not sticking its tongue out. So generally, if like 15, 20 seconds go by where that tongue's not coming out, you can assume that your snake has indeed gone to bed.
But what snakes do have, though, this snake might not close its eyes, but they do have a scale that's over their eye, so it's almost like you're wearing goggles. So when this snake is going through the sand, they do still have that protection over their eye. And that's why when you see a snake shed, the next time you find one, which I hope you do, look for the eye, and you'll actually see a scale that was shed that's right over their eye. A lot of people don't know that.
I can tell you I didn't know that. So thank you so much for all that fabulousness about snakes, about this snake in particular. And remember, if you guys want to catch more animal experiences and more animal encounters from the zoo, we'll be back tomorrow again at 3:15 and at 4 for those animal encounters. So for those of you, thank you so much, Zoo. Great job, ladies. So for those of you who are just now joining us, welcome again to the Greater Cincinnati Environmental Educators Expo. This is our first virtual one we've ever tried, although this is our 21st year we've been doing this. So every year we host an environmental expo, usually at the zoo, but this year with everything going on, we obviously went a little virtual. You can find recordings of these presentations along with virtual programs, field trips, tips and tricks, activity guides, grants, all kinds of stuff on our website, gce-ee.org. A few housekeeping reminders. If you have any questions for the presenters, please type that directly into the Q&A. We will be monitoring this and ask those presenters the question. We will be picking one door prize winner towards the end of each session. So you have to be present to win. If we call out your name, we're going to ask you to put your email address or your phone number into the Q&A so we can contact you and figure out a way to get your door prize to you. Remember, this Q&A is only seen by the presenters, so you don't have to worry about sharing that information with anybody else that's attending. If there are any handouts from the upcoming presentation or any other presentation this week, they will be on the GCEE website. And finally, if you would like a certificate of participation, you can go to the GCEE website. And I will explain a little bit afterwards about how to do that. But next, I would like to welcome our second ever virtual breakout presenters. We have Kat Zellick, who works for the Claremont Soil and Water Conservation District, and Melissa Profit, who works for the Warren Soil and Water Conservation District. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for coming, and we can't wait to hear what you have to share.
All right, well, thank you, Gwen. We're very excited to be here. So hi, everybody. So I'm Melissa Profit. I'm the Education and Communication Specialist for the Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District. Some of you guys maybe have worked with your local soil and water district educators prior. You know, typical years, we're coming into the classroom and presenting programs on different environmental education topics. But this year, we know everybody's teaching a little bit differently. And so we have some resources that we want to continue sharing with our teachers. So today, let me start sharing my screen. We are going to look at a program all about wiggly worms. So worms are a really fascinating organism to study because there's so much that we can talk about with them. Wonderful Wiggling Worms, the program that we're going to look at today. This particular one, it's geared towards second grade learning standards. However, with worms, you really have that option of moving it a little bit up or down, depending upon what content you're talking about. You know, worms lend themselves well to first grade, talking about what do living things need to survive. You can talk about life cycle at the third grade level, how they're decomposers at the fifth grade level. So this lesson that we go through, depending upon what age of students you're working with, you can really choose to use this content and adjust it to your needs for your classes. So looking at Wonderful Wiggling Worms, again, we highlight the second grade standard that it aligns to. So in this lesson, we're looking at how living things cause changes on Earth, how they're interacting with their physical environment. So worms, of course, are very hard workers in the soil. Now, a lot of times when we work with an organism like worms, it's great if we can have that live organism in the classroom or where the students can get hands-on with them. But we're teaching in a very much virtual world right now. So in this lesson, it's looking at how can students still make those scientific observations, how can they record data, and doing that through using video and observing worms in a different context, but still making those observations. So with this Wonderful Wiggling Worms, we do have a video section of our lesson here. And I'm going to click on the video here for a moment.
Hello everyone, Melissa Profit here, Education and...
So that's me, so it just gives a little bit of an introduction. But as you move through the video, you get information about the organisms, but then we have a section where we are actually showing the worms to you guys. So the students have
These are not native
to look at the worms. These are from a compost pile. So you can also discuss things like vermicomposting. How do we recycle our food scraps? Again, kind of another tangent that can tie into this lesson. And you can choose to hear the audio on the video.
grow and get bigger with age, so too does the earthworm.
So it's going to go through and talk about, you know, different things that we can observe with earthworms. How do they move? What do they look like? How are they making tunnels underneath the surface of the soil? That's one of those jobs that they do. It's one way that they are changing the environment. And you can also then just take segments of this video. If you just want the kids
also on my plate
to zero in, I'm just going to mute it there so we don't have the combating audio of me speaking and the video speak, but where they can look at the organisms and watch. Then after watching, or even while they're watching, we want to encourage them to be making those recorded observations. What do you see? What do you hear? So as we scroll down here, also included with this lesson are some observation sheets. So if I click this, it'll open it up here, and we're going to give the students a place where they can describe what they're seeing. They can describe how is the worm moving. You know, do the worms appear to have sense organs? Do we see eyes? Do we see ears? Do we see a mouth? One thing that I love about worms as well is this is something we can tie to a child's direct observations. A lot of kids have gone out and played in the dirt and have found worms. So they can rely on their own observations in real life as well. Compare that to what they might see in a video context, and then they can draw a picture of the earthworm and start looking at, well, how is it changing that soil environment? We also encourage the students to think of other questions they have. You know, a question always will kind of springboard into another question, and we want to encourage that kind of thinking. We want those, you know, critical thinking, what more can I learn? And looking at worms really can initiate that kind of thinking with our students. Now, we also have a fillable PDF version of this because, again, we want these lessons to be transferable, right? Some of you guys might have students in your classroom right now. Some of you may be teaching on a complete remote platform. And either way, this is a lesson that you can use in your setting. So it's the same worksheet, but in this way, you can have the students do everything electronically, type in their answers, they can email that back to the teacher. On here, you notice it says schedule a follow-up virtual Q&A with your county educator. Kind of like how we're doing this with a Zoom or in a Google Classroom. You know, we're still here to kind of answer those questions. So you can tap a kind of outside expert, whether it is a soil and water educator or someone else with a nature center or something like that, where you can still get that outside perspective and Q&A with your students where they can ask their questions. But again, that's just another option with this lesson. And even if you're doing this all virtually, we still want to encourage students to get outside, right? I mean, we're learning about our natural environment. So we want to encourage them to, you know, go outside and see what they can see. So we've got a get outside activity here. And it'll kind of give you the materials that you need. Basically, we're going to work with some kind of a coarse netting, like an old orange sack or even old apple sacks, and tent stakes, because the idea is we're going to take some leaves, which is a food source for our earthworms, and we're going to lay them out on a pattern on the ground. There is some advice about where you can find an area where it might be conducive to where earthworms would be, you know, kind of a wet area with moisture in the grass. And then we're going to stake those leaves down, and we want our students to then draw a picture of the pattern that those leaves are in. The netting is going to help hold those leaves in place so we don't get kind of blown away by the wind or something like that. But then this is going to be an activity that the kids are going back and checking and making observations in a journal and looking at the changes that they see in the leaves. And that can get them thinking about, okay, well, how are worms contributing to these changes? What does it mean if these leaves are disappearing? We could think about how worms are putting nutrients back into the soil by helping these leaves to break down and decompose. And this is something that you can either do in your schoolyard if you are a teacher that has students back in the classroom with you, or it's something that you can offer for students that are learning from home. It's something that an adult in the household can help the students do either out in their own yard or out in any kind of, you know, just small natural area near where they live that they could do these kind of observations. Another thing is that teachers could choose to do this activity and make their own videos if you wanted to document your own little site to share with your students. So again, it's taking the content and then making it flexible for whatever's working with your teaching situation. We also have some extensions to help build on studying worms. So included here is a worm worksheet packet. This is from 123 Homeschool Me. And it has a lot of different activities and handouts that you can use with your students. And this is all available for free for our local educators. So you can even, you know, use the worms to practice writing. You can tie it into literature, math. Again, worms really are a way to explore a lot of different topics. We also have some additional video. You know, there are a lot of great options out there for videos about worms. So included are also some videos from our local soil and water conservation district educators. We've got a video from Hamilton County SWCD. So for those of you who know Gwen, so they have a video up here as well. And again, I just have the sound muted on this so that I'm not trying to talk over it, but it's another take, another example that you can share with your students on worms. And then similarly, Butler County has a video as well. So these videos are on YouTube, and they are also all put all together here with this lesson so that everything is in one place for our teachers to use. So I'll scroll back up here. Now again, you know, if you're able to find a worm outside to bring into the classroom, that's wonderful, that's great. But it's about opening up to other ways to teach about worms, about needs of living things, how are they changing the environment, and making those connections with our students. So this is one available lesson through, you guys might notice the logo up in the corner, Southwest Ohio Ed Resources. So this is a new education site that some local soil and water conservation districts, we've come together to let you guys have access to all these resources. And this is something that Kat Zilak from Claremont County is going to tell us more about. Kat, I'm going to kick it over to you.
All right, thanks, Melissa. Wait, see. Get my screen up here. All right, perfect. Hi, everybody. My name is Kat Zilak. I am the education coordinator for Claremont County Soil and Water. And so Melissa, thank you so much for walking us through the wiggling worms lesson. And like she said, that's just one example of a lesson that we have created. So I have here shared on my screen the landing page for this website that we created. So Butler, Claremont, Hamilton, and Warren County educators. We've been working really hard over the last couple of months to put this site together, and we're still working hard to put content up. So if there's something that you would like to see on this page, keep checking back. We'll probably have more content as we go along. So again, this is the landing page for the site. We created a video here that's short. It's about 7 to 8 minutes long. That just walks you through basically everything I'm going to take you through right now, how to use the site, and what we're hoping that you get out of it as well. And you'll notice throughout this site, there's a lot of sections that are underlined, like where my arrow is here. All of these sections, if you click on them, will link you to another page. So here is a form. This will take you to a contact page. There's an FAQ page. So we try to make this as integrated as possible so you don't have to constantly keep looking for new places for information. It should all just be right at your fingertips as you're looking through. So you'll notice up here at the top, there are several different sections. We broke our programs down by grade. So K through 2 is where Melissa was just loading that lesson from. So notice I clicked on K through 2. And then here we have our kindergarten, first grade, and second grade lessons. Melissa was pulling from this wonderful Wiggling Worms program here. And you'll notice there are 3 other programs we currently have up for second grade as well. You'll also notice there are some sections where we have content that's coming soon. So this means that the lesson's either incomplete or just is missing a few components. It doesn't have everything there, so still check those lessons out. They just might not have all of the different components like Melissa showed. So again, if we just check out first grade here, trees, basic needs, you'll see there's always going to be an overview at the top that's linked to that state standard. Go over the format of that lesson, materials that you'll need to complete, and then again, like Melissa did with the worms, walking you through the lesson content as well. So one thing that Melissa pointed out was it's how to contact your educator for your county. So one thing that's going to be really, really important if you use this site, we're asking you to please report back to us how you use these programs, and for how many students. So reporting these numbers is going to be really important for us for tracking. Having numbers of how many programs were conducted as well as how many people received that program is really important for us to continue to offer these free resources. So if you do access this site and you do use some of our lessons, please, please, please report back, again, using this form right here. You're also able to email us. Again, by clicking here will take us directly to our email addresses, as well as access our website link here. Last but not least, on our page, we have compiled a list of additional resources and broken them down by content. So here we have a bunch of informational videos from other organizations by content, listing how long each video is. So if you want some more information, as well as other activities to link in, some other good multi-lesson pages that we've reviewed, and virtual field trips as well. So now, as Melissa mentioned, jumping back to our contact page, your county educator is available to do live virtual programs on a case-by-case basis. So if your class has questions, you've gone through one of the lessons and your students have a lot of questions and like to ask an educator, please reach out to your county educator and we'll try to set something up. And again, I mentioned this is on a case-by-case basis. We're all working hard through this COVID times to try to get virtually into as many classes as we can, but it's a little bit of a trial and error. So please reach out to that county educator and we'll see what we can do. And it's really important that you make sure you contact your county specifically, because we can only work within our own county. So I, as a Claremont County educator, can only give programs within Claremont County. Melissa is for Warren County, Gwen and Sarah with Hamilton, and Lynn with Butler County. So how to access this great site? Good questions. So pulled you over to the GCEE site. Over here on the left, we have GCEE partners. You click on that link. Here's all of the organizations who are partnering through this wonderful expo. You scroll down, you will find here the link to the Southwest Ohio Educator Resources page. If you click on that, here's the link to the website. Now, one thing that's worth mentioning, if you click on that link to the website, it won't take you directly to the full page. It'll take you to this landing page here, and you'll notice all of those lovely tabs up at the top with the grade band specific content are gone because we have to restrict access for reporting reasons. So this is kind of an abridged version of the site. So when you click on that link, it'll take you to this abridged version, and there will be an access form here. Just ask you to fill this out as completely as you can. Your email address and contact information is going to be really important because this is how we are going to add you to access the page. Once we have this from you, within 2 days, we'll have you up and able to go on the site. So I think that is all for now. Gwen, do we have any questions?
So we do have a few questions, Kat, and one of them is, since this is a Google site, do I have to have a Gmail address to access this?
Yes, good. Great question. You do have to have an account that is linked with a Google account. You do not have to have a Gmail account though. So if you have a, let's say, Yahoo account, what you can do is you can create a Google account using your Yahoo email address. You do not have to create a new email address. Basically what you would do is just go to Google, create a new account, and then you can type in your existing email address to that. But yes, very good question. You do have to have an email account that is linked to Google.
Okay, another question we have is, what if we live and teach in Northern Kentucky?
Good questions as well. So these resources are open and available for everybody to use. If you do not live within those 4 counties, you're of course able to use the content. I'm the contact person for people who live outside of our 4-county region, so please still report back to us with how you use these programs, because we need to record those numbers as well. So yes, you're able to use them, just please still report back.
And another question we had in the Q&A is, there high school lessons, specifically lessons for outdoors?
So Melissa, I believe you were involved with creating this, if you want to answer that question.
Sure. So I'm going to reshare my screen here just so that we can look at those K through 12.
And Melissa, I'm going to interrupt just really quickly while you're doing that. We have chosen our door prize winner for this session. So I want to give them a chance. Jen, I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong, Stoles. If you are a Jen Stoles, if you could please put your email address or your phone number in the Q&A. Again, that Q&A is not shared with anybody but presenters, and we will get with Melissa and Kat to get you your door prizes. So again, if you are Jen Stoles, if you will please put your contact information in the Q&A. Thank you,
Congratulations, Jen. So as far as high school courses, so these are the 3 programs that we have right now for 9th through 12th grade. When we click on these, so these are for, we've created them to be able to be delivered virtually. However, there could always be an extension for getting outside. Another outside particular high school program that many of us do is macroinvertebrates and stream studies. So those will be coming down the pipeline. So kind of the short answer is we don't have any specifically geared outdoors only high school programs, but we will be continuing to add content up here. And stream studies is one that we will be adding a little bit later down the road.
And that's a good point too, Melissa, is for a lot of the different age bands that we have, there are different live demonstrations that can go along with them. So like you mentioned, the stream demonstration, you have a stream table as well. I forget which age band lesson has linked to that, but you can reach out to an educator to do a live demonstration for your stream table or other examples like that.
All right, any other questions that we have, Gwen?
I think that's all the questions we have right now in the Q&A. I just want to thank you guys for doing all this work on the website. This has definitely been a very interesting thing, and I think the teachers are really going to love it. And as both Kat and Melissa said, remember, this is not just for those Fort County teachers. This is to help you, any of you out. I don't even care if you're in Ohio or Kentucky. You can be in California. But please, please, please just report those numbers back so we can go back to our funders and say, yes, this is a valuable resource. We need to keep doing that.
Absolutely. And if you are in a region, outside of our 4 counties, you can still reach out to your local SWCD if you have questions or, if you want support after looking at these lessons. We're all in this together. I know that's kind of become the saying of 2020, I think, but for good reason.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, ladies. And I am going to share my screen. Okay. Again, just a friendly reminder, if there were any handouts, I don't think we had any handouts from this session, but if you had handouts from the last session or any sessions in the future, you can go to this website, gce-ee.org. on the website, and you can click on 2020 breakout sessions, and all of the handouts will be listed by day and by organizational name. And again, if you want a certificate of participation, you can go to this same website, click on 2020 Expo breakout sessions, and complete the certificate of participation form. We will verify your attendance against the Zoom webinar attendance list and send a certificate within 2 weeks of the final Expo day. So I want to thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on this very, very first virtual Greater Cincinnati Environmental Educators Ultimate Educator Expo. We wish all of you a very fabulous school year. The sessions again will start at 3:15 tomorrow with an animal encounter, and then at 3:30 we will have our first breakout session from the Environmental Education Council of Ohio. At 4 o'clock we will have another animal encounter, and at 4:15 the Great Parks of Hamilton County will do a session. Please, the sessions are still open, so if you know any other teachers that are still interested, they can still go to the Cincinnati Zoo and sign up for this event. Or you can find that link again on our website, gc-ee.org. We hope you all have a very wonderful night, and we hope to see you again tomorrow. Thank you very much for coming.